are not out marching in the projects and reaching out to the working class. That is not part of our discussion. And when we talk about race, we cannot talk about race without class, because the common thread is these people who died, were murdered by police, were black and poor. And you don't have to be a trained Marxist to come up with that paradigm. So when we talk about empowerment and taking power, we have to do it in these very centers that we have been brought together as we reach out to the black working class community, the victim of police violence, murder and brutality every day. And it starts here. Today is Sandra Bland's funeral. And no mention of that, and that is not part of the discussion from this stage. And it is our responsibility to point out those contradictions. It is our responsibility to offer that critical analysis in terms of how we move forward with a united front, with a respect for critical analysis, and not see it as an opportunity to silence people by telling them that you are creating a space that is no longer safe. What the hell does that mean anyway? Thank you.
On Friday to meet everyone here from the organization. I'm from an organisation called London. Hello. I'm from an organisation called London Black Revolutionaries. We've been following what's going on in America since last summer when it kicked off in Ferguson, and we're really feeding off of the anger and love that's happening in America. The UK's it has a different context in terms of race and class relations, but last November we had a demonstration outside the US Embassy that marched through all of central London with 3,000 young black men and women, all mainly under 25. In November, just after you guys shut down Minneapolis shopping mall, we shut our biggest shopping mall down in London with 1,000 people as well. I work really closely with the families of people who have had loved ones killed in custody. We show a lot of solidarity in the US, and they've asked me to come and basically raise the campaign to raise awareness around our deaths in custody, because the trend is increasing, and the government is currently talking about arming our officers, introducing water cannons, because they're expecting a trend of protest, of civil disobedience because of anti-austerity measures. So we just wanted to come and bring that over and really show solidarity to all the families on the panel today, and make sure that we're continuing to communicate with each other, continuing to work with each other, because you guys are ahead of us. And we're always looking to what's happening in the movement here. We don't have a movement yet. We're trying to form a movement, and we have a lot of contradictions. We have a lot of problems. We don't have a generation of elders that's completely missing because of defeatism, because of what happened in the 70s and 80s. But that's a long story. But yeah, I just wanted to say, sorry everyone here and everyone struggled. Please keep us updated, and we can do everything we can to help you guys.
Hello, my name is Marvin Patterson, and I'm a Christian community activist here in Cleveland. We've been out there pounding the pavement to try to bring awareness to what's going on. Okay, hi. My name is Marvin Patterson. Hi. And I am a Christian community activist here in Cleveland, and we have been pounding the pavement to bring awareness to police brutality, and I'm very sorry for the losses. And our heart goes out to you, and we are so grateful that you're here. There seems to be a structural issue with our judiciaries. The laws are not actually being observed. We have constitutional rights to life. And that's just the way it is. The Constitution means something. Our Bill of Rights means something. But these judiciaries are taking it as if it's toilet paper. They're rushing these cases through. They don't care that you've lost loved ones. And we have issues here, Tamir Rice, Tanisha Anderson, and we can continue to add it up year after year, month after month, day after day. But I believe as a coalition, because this is what's being built today, that we take it and we form the strongest coalition to fight these judiciaries, to go and fight in Washington, to fight for what's ours, our rights. We have a right to life. We have a right to produce. We have all of these things as a people. So what I'm saying is thank you. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing your stories. And I'm hoping, as we collaborate, that we will find justice. Thank you.
April knows. My name is Mark Clemens, and I am a Chicago police torture victim. Someone that spent 28 years inside of the Illinois Department of Corrections. I don't want to talk about that now because I want to raise my question. And if you want to learn, I'll be happy to talk to you about that. Or you can Google the name, Mark Clemens. Yes, we do need a coalition, but we need a coalition of unity. We need a coalition of all people. And sad to say, we missed that boat. We're missing the boat because once we leave this auditorium, and then I contact you and say, well, hey, guess what? This is going on over here and I need your help. No one responds. We must change here if we want better results. Yes, it is our children being gunned down. What happened to Martinez? Man, that stuff is a tragic. It's mental abuse, which I ain't heard here. No one talked about the psychological trauma. No one talked about the complex trauma. And until we deal with those issues, we're going in a circle. But this is a good start. Thank you.
I just want to point out, Mark Clemens, he identified himself as one of the police torture survivors in Chicago. But if you are unaware, on May 6th of this year, the City Council passed the reparations ordinance, which provides reparations for the over 100 black men who were tortured under the John Burge, who was a former Chicago police commander, torture ring. That's the first time in the history of this country that reparations have been won for survivors of police torture.
Hey everybody, my name is Jason. I'm organized with Aislinn and many others with Black Lives Matter Chicago. I'll try to be really brief. I just really want to respond to the first woman and sister who spoke and brought up this question of what economic justice means, what that analysis means to the work. In my experience over the past 11 months in Chicago, I think that a lot of what's really empowering, and Mark knows, and some of you know, a lot of what's really empowering about the work that's going on is this question of transformative justice and using that as a route to fight for what we actually want, not just for what we think we can get. So a part of that for me means that we actually are with intention and with clarity building movement spaces that have capacity for healing and have capacity for the knowledge and for the trauma and the harm that we are bringing in. So it seems to me like often we have movement spaces, activist spaces that can't manage to really make space for that and really take that seriously. And I believe that the way ahead, especially for a lot of the younger people that are doing work right now, that's a really deeply important piece, and that we have to manage to really take those questions seriously, even in our so-called revolutionary, so-called radical spaces, and really make space for that so that we can have movements that are not traumatic themselves. And that way we wouldn't have a problem with recruitment or getting certain numbers of people out to an action or a rally. You know, it has to start from there, and we have to start building the types of economies, the types of communities that we actually want, and not have everything be about asking systems and demanding systems of things that we aren't practicing ourselves. It has to start with us. It has to start with us building that, and that feels impossible, but it demands a lot from our imaginations, as opposed to this framework of, you know, making demands on positions of power. You know, I'm really more interested in us building from there. So that's all I want to offer up.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gregory McPherson. I've been a victim of violence, drugs, institutional bureaucracy, its treachery. And during my prison time, I read a lot. I'm born in the 60s. I'm 53 years old. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he wanted to raise a nation of people. We're talking about during the time of civil rights. Martin Luther King had a method of nonviolence to fight against racism. Emmett Till's mother had an open casket for him because she wanted the world to see what racism had done to our son. And we experience it today with your sister, what racism has done. Abraham Lincoln, when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation 100 years later, when Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize, he said he was honored when 100 years later, after the promissory note had been signed, that the Negro was still exiled in its own country. We are exiled in our own country. She said, where's the power? The power is in the civil rights movement. We got to go back and educate our children today on the civil rights movement. We got to educate our children on our black history in order to organize a powerful movement. We need to educate our children. When they sent me to prison illegally, a man took me by the hand and he said, man, you want to get free from here? And he gave me my history. And I started reading everything. And coming out of it, I said, man, I felt I had missed out. But I was grateful for the 11 years because I've been studying ever since. And I know where the power is. It's in education. And I know how to heal if I forgive. I can heal. If you forgive, you can heal. One last thing before I go. My father is my best friend. I was in prison when he died. And my mother buried my father one day and had to hold me up in the prison the next day. And they didn't even let me go see my father. I was 32 then, I'm 53 now. And it took me about 17 years to let it go. If you hold this something, if you don't let go, you're going to get drugged. So you got to let things go. We got to learn how to let things go. And we got to educate our children. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rekia Welch. I'm here from Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm humbled and I'm honored to be here. I got invited here because I'm a person that was incarcerated for 7 years. And in Arkansas, we hear about all of these different people. We hear about the Rekias. We hear about the Snippet. But no one comes to us knowing that in Arkansas, guess what? We have lives that are taken from us. We have police brutality. We're under investigation right now in the state of Arkansas because of sexual misconduct in the prison systems against women and transgenders, something that I reported to the Arkansas Department of Corrections in 2001, but nobody listened. But because I spoke out, I got sent from a minimum security prison back to a maximum security prison until I was released in 2006. But nobody wants to hear this. Nobody is coming. Y'all say it's a movement. Don't make this today, this weekend, be just a moment. Don't always come here and talk about, I'm absorbing everything. And when I tell you that I'm going back to Little Rock, Arkansas, I'm not afraid of prison. I'm not afraid of the police. I have a voice, and now is the time for my baby to be birthed and for me to help my people, because I remember the people, I remember the women, the older men that sat down and spoke to me about life. I made a choice to do that. I made a choice. And I did my prison time to make myself better. I, like you, sir, I read, I studied about my history. I learned who I am. Now that I know who I am, I don't have a problem saying I am who I am. And I stand for that. And we all need to do that, not just talk about it. I love you because you're my sister and brother. Love is an action word. So let's start some action. Amen.
My name is John Hawkins. I'm from Chicago. I'm a member of the Socialist Workers Party, and I've worked with a number of the people who've spoken here. The question that was posed of what strategy we need to follow in order to really stop police killings is very important. I'll say what my opinion is, and we're not going to stop it until we get rid of the capitalist system that engenders it. The capitalist class profits from the exploitation of black people. It profits from paying black people minimum wage in a much higher percentage than they pay people who are white minimum wage. The vast majority of people who are paid minimum wage are women. They're not going to stop. We're not going to stop police killings until we stop the system that super exploits us and that needs to keep us ground down in order to continue that super exploitation. Now, along the road, we can make big changes and make big gains. One thing we have to do is make them pay as high a political price as we can every time they kill somebody. And that's what we're doing in Chicago. We're going to make the Chicago Police Department pay a high political price for killing a kid. And we should do that everywhere that happens across the country. But we should also link this fight up consciously with every other aspect of the fight for black liberation going on today. The fight for 15 in a union is an important affirmative action fight for black people for the reason I just mentioned. That's part of the fight for black liberation today. The fight to take down the Confederate flag and to take down all these Confederate monuments is part of the fight for black liberation today. And an important, and we won an important victory in Charleston, South Carolina, where it was taken down. It didn't go up until 1962 when the white supremacists put it up in order to announce their resistance to the fight to end Jim Crow. Now we showed them that it's down, and it's going to come down all across the country, along with all the monuments that were put up in the early part of the 20th century to enshrine Jim Crow to begin with. All that's coming down. We have to build that kind of movement that fights on all fronts in order to beat this back and respond to every instance of cop killings the way we've done in Chicago and some other places. One other thing, we should take note of the fact that the response of black working people in the streets in Ferguson, Missouri, and in Baltimore shook the ruling class of this country to the core. To a certain extent, they have placed the cops on heavy manners. And we've seen a diminution of some of the cop killings in the most atrocious things that we've seen. But unless we keep mobilizing, they ain't going to stay under heavy manners for long. So we have to stay in the streets, keep mobilizing against every police killer. We have to mobilize in the fight for 15 in the union and join the fight to take down all the relics of the Confederacy everywhere in this country. Deal with this ruling class and white supremacists in this country another big blow.
Emmett Till. I'm 65, so I was 5 years old when I saw Emmett Till's face on the magazine. And I watched what happened to my grown-ups in Pennsylvania, where I lived. And that made a big impression on me, and I think it started my advocacy and my activism at 5 years old. I will weep for your sister. I will carry her in my heart. And I'll raise her up by doing what's right when I take my next steps. And that's what I'm hoping we all do, that we find something that we can do. It can be a big thing or a small thing, that will change the hearts and minds of other people so that they can all help us to make change happen. We won't be free until everybody's free. I'm curious, early on you made a statement about not inviting people who were part of the court system.
Prosecutors.
Oh, just the prosecutors. I was worried because I'm a lawyer. I'm thinking, oh my, want my help. Okay, just the prosecutors. Well, that would not be me. But even some prosecutors, if you find the right ones, you have to really, really not be careful of, and I'm saying this as a 65-year-old, be careful of taking a category of people out of your helping system. Because you never know where the category might exclude them, their hearts won't. It will include them. So just be real careful about that. Identity politics has its place, but you also have to be very careful about choosing allies who can be effective in helping your struggle. To that end, have you engaged at all in with the DOJ around Chicago's mess? Well, that's good, because we did that finally in Cleveland. We have a consent decree, and we'll see how that works. If not, we'll be right back talking to them and working with it again. But I live around the corner from the place where the 137 shots were fired. And that place is right next to a middle school. So our children have to walk, and it's an 85% black city called East Cleveland. And the city of Cleveland's police came into our city of East Cleveland and shot those people. And I don't see why we didn't go out to East Cleveland. It's about 15 minutes away. Why we didn't go out there and have some kind of something to commemorate that horrific shooting of those two unarmed black folks. It's sitting in their car by a middle school where kids have to walk by and feel the fear that I felt at 5 when I saw Emmett Till's face on that magazine. We have to show our children that we're able to protect them, or we lose them. They figure, well, mama can't protect me, daddy can't protect me, cousin can't protect me, then I got to protect myself. Maybe I'll go get a gun. And the next person that steps on my tennis shoes, I'm just going to protect me. Now, so in order to, okay, I'm sorry, but we got to do something because Cleveland needs help, and I'm so glad you're here. I don't know how you got here, but I'm glad you did. And if we can just find some way to commemorate those 137 shots, I would feel better because the police officer was exonerated. All the cops were exonerated in that. All of them.
We have time for one last speaker, but